example, yesterday I called together my manufacturing advisory committee. We had about 50 manufacturers, some very, very large. Boeing was there, and some very small companies. The discussion centered around precisely what you talked about. We had representatives from Lawrence Livermore National Labs, Sandia National Labs, and Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and the University of California, Davis, researchers, one and all the most advanced research going on in the world. Their discussion was not about nuclear weapons, which you might expect from Lawrence Livermore and Sandia Labs, because that's their principal job, how to deal with the nuclear weapons issue. But they were talking about technologies that they have come into and have advanced through their research. Laser research. One of the companies that was there was a spin-off from research that was done at Lawrence Livermore National Labs on laser technology. And it's called laser peening. Now, you've heard of a ball-peen hammer, which is used to strike metal, and in striking the metal, it actually strengthens it. Well, now they are using lasers that strike that metal, and the result of it is you significantly strengthen the metal. And this is now used by General Electric and others in the manufacturing of some of the internal parts in the jet engines. It substantially strengthens them. It's just one example of the way in which research can flow into the manufacturing sector, enhancing the job opportunities for the middle class, and once again, made in America and giving the middle class a jump start. These things all come together. So this manufacturing group yesterday dealt on everything you talked about. They were talking about export. They talked about tax policy. They talked about research into the private sector. Another example, University of California, which I have the honor of representing, has a very large engineering school. It's one of the largest in the nation, and they're producing, I think they said I think they have 8,000 students in their engineering program. A couple of the graduates a few years back developed a new way of programming machine tools, computer-assisted machine tools. And they were so advanced that a Japanese machine tool company, one of the largest in the world, began to look at this, said, we need that technology, incorporate it into their program, and then they decided they needed to be near the researchers. So they have now located in Davis, California, a major manufacturing program to make these very advanced machine tools using the research that comes from the university. A marvelous example of what we need to do in our public policies.
You know, it's interesting as you highlighted the discussion, the dialogue with your advisors. You know, the business of representing congressional districts, of representing any district in the halls of government, the key factor is listening, opening up to discussion, ideas, constructive criticism of what needs to be done out there, what's being done and what can be done better, what's not being done that needs to be done.
Can I give you another example? It was exciting. It was a really exciting day, Mr. Tonko.
Go for it, Representative.
As one of the small businesses, of several of them actually, after listening to these, the heads of these extraordinary laboratories said, yeah, but I'm just a small company. I don't have any money to go and work with you guys on products that we want to develop, on ideas that I wouldn't have any money. And the fellow from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, raised his hand and said, you know, I kind of see him wanting to jump into the conversation. And I called on him and he said, we can help. And I'm going, you're from the government and you can help? He said, we can help, we can help. We have a voucher program. I didn't know this existed in the Small Business Administration, but they have a voucher program that a small business that wants to connect to one of the national laboratories or one of the universities can get a voucher that's worth a certain amount of money, take it down to the laboratory, and begin to work with the laboratory on transferring technology to that business. Wow. I mean, do businesses know that such a thing exists? Are we promoting that? Are we supporting the Small Business Administration so that they can help these small businesses in really what I think is a unique and wonderful way?
Well, you
I
know,
interrupted you. My apologies.
no,
Mr.
no, and it's fine because you're just speaking to the point of listening and responding, learning from our constituents, learning from the front line of the business community and the worker community. And basically, when we travel this route, if we gather the information and then act accordingly, great things can happen. Prosperity blooms and blossoms. And I believe that, you know, when the business community is speaking, from small to medium to large industry, when they're telling us we need workforce development investment, we ought to listen. When they're telling us they need immigration reform, we ought to listen. When they're talking about reauthorization of the Export-Import Bank, we ought to listen. When they talk about incentives that modernize and transfer and transition traditional manufacturing into advanced manufacturing, we ought to listen. And the list goes